Hello and welcome back to another Football Commentaries live stream. It is the M23 derby this afternoon as Brighton host Crystal Palace at the Amex, a rivalry stemming from clashes back in the 1970s. The Seagulls take on the Eagles for the 18th time in the Premier League. Brighton under Hertzler have only won 2 of their last 10 in all competitions, and it's just 1 from their last 6 at home in the Premier League. They will need to bounce back after last weekend's disappointing draw to the Toffees after a 97th minute equaliser from Beto cancelled out Pascal Gross's first goal back in Brighton colours. Palace are struggling even more than their opposition at the moment, winless in their last 12 in all competitions. They last won away at Shelbourne back on the 11th of December in the Conference League, and it is 9 without a win in the Premier League since beating Fulham by 2-1 at Craven Cottage all the way back at the start of December, just over 2 months ago. But after movement in the transfer window, Palace are looking to get back on track despite losing captain Mark Gahey and learning about the news of their manager Oliver Glasner announcing he'll be leaving come the summer. The reverse fixture at Selhurst Park was a boring 0-0 back in early November, but it is 0 wins in the previous 3 for Brighton against Crystal Palace after a league double for the Eagles in the last campaign, firstly winning here at the Amex 3-1 and then picking up more bragging rights in a 2-1 win at home at the start of last April. With both teams in desperate need of maximum points today, will it be Brighton or Palace who will take home all 3 of them from the Amex? It's contrasting seasons for both in terms of when they compare their campaigns this season to last season. Brighton finished last season in 8th position on 61 points, and they were only 5 points off Aston Villa in 6th, who ended up qualifying for the Europa League. And then for Crystal Palace, of course, it wasn't the most successful league season. They only finished 12th position, but came home with that FA Cup victory, which they will not be able to replicate this season after being knocked out by Macclesfield in the 3rd round. At the time of that game, the gap between Macclesfield and Crystal Palace were 117 league positions. So it's been such a negative season for Crystal Palace. Of course, Mark Gahey's already left in the January window. It looks like Jean-Philippe Mateta will eventually leave, maybe come the summer. He did have a January move to AC Milan, failed due to a medical. It's a knee injury he's currently got going on, and that does mean that Mateta also misses out today. He is not in the Crystal Palace squad, but in terms of looking at it in a bit more of a positive light, they have made signings, bringing players into the club. Signing and starting straight away is Jørgen Strand Larsen, celebrated his 26th birthday on Friday. He comes straight into the starting 11 after scoring just the 1 goal so far this season in the Premier League for the struggling Wolves side, and that was in a 3-2 home defeat to Burnley back at the end of October. He's not scored in any of his last 15 Premier League games, but last season he scored 14, and then altogether it does bring his tally to 15 Premier League goals in 57 appearances. So it's not the worst of returns, but for Crystal Palace, they'll be wanting him to be scoring the likes of double figures like he did last season and not just the one that he's already got this season. But alongside that, they've also brought in Brennan Johnson from Tottenham, who's on the bench today. He was the club record transfer fee for Crystal Palace until that was broken by Strand Larsen only a few weeks later. And then also as well bringing in Evan Gessand from Aston Villa on loan. He only joined Aston Villa in the summer, and he's on loan at Crystal Palace with an option to buy of £28 million if they feel like it is the right decision for them, because of course they've been spending quite a lot of money within the last 2 transfer windows, Crystal Palace, but that is deservedly so after their FA Cup triumph, because last week they've gone from not being able to fill the bench fully, and it consists of 2 youth players and some senior players and a goalkeeper. The bench this weekend looks absolutely brilliant. They've got the 3 forwards on the bench of Gassan, Johnson and Uche, and then got Kamada in as the midfielder, and then we've got Chadi Riyad at the back from a long-term knee injury that he's returning from. 2 back-to-back knee injuries for the Moroccan centre-back since joining, so it's good to see that he's back in the squad. I know he started the game last weekend away at Forest in the 1-1 draw for Palace, and then also JD Canvo, who's a young French centre-back, just 19 years of age, signed him in the summer from Toulouse for £23 million. He's only started 3 in his 9 Premier League appearances without, and also did start that Macclesfield game, the FA Cup defeat, but was brought off at half time. And for Brighton, it does seem like there's a little bit of pressure on Fabian Herzler coming into this game. Just 2 wins from their last 10 in all competitions. One of them was in the FA Cup, but that was an away win to Manchester United at Old Trafford. And their most recent Premier League win was at home to Burnley, just the 2-0 win. Probably should have been maximum points in their last game against Everton at home last weekend, but a 97th minute equaliser from Beto somehow salvaged a point for Everton. I remember watching the highlights of that game, and it seemed to have been a game that very much lacked a lot of chances, and it was probably Brighton who probably just edged it, but a game is never completely over in the Premier League, and Everton showcased that in their last minute equaliser. We are just about 4 minutes away from kick-off, so we'll go through both sets of starting 11s now, and we'll start with Brighton, who make 3 changes from that starting 11 against Everton last weekend. It is Bart Verbruggen to remain in goal. All of his appearances this season have come in the Premier League. It's a back four where there's one change. Jan-Paul van Hecke misses out due to a hamstring injury. It's said it's meant to be precautionary, but he is missing a huge game this afternoon. So it does mean that the right back, Ferdi Kaggioglu, will be playing alongside Olivier Boscagli, the free transfer they made from PSV in the summer. He makes just his 4th start in the league this season. And alongside him at the back will be Lewis Dunk and Maxime de Cauper, 2 older midfielders of Carlos Baleba, who's making his 100th Brighton appearance. He'll play alongside Pascal Gross, one of Brighton's January signings. He comes back after leaving in 2024. And he got his first goal since his return last weekend against Everton. 3 behind the striker on the right-hand side is 17-year-old Harry Howell, who comes in for his first ever Premier League start. His only other Premier League appearance was as a late substitute against Liverpool at home in May last season when they won by 3-2. On the left-hand side will be Kaoru Mitoma, who's got 2 league goals so far this season and yet to score at home in the Premier League this campaign. In the number 10 position, wearing the number 10 shirt, will be Jorginho Ruta. He's got the 2 league goals this season, both at home, and his last against Burnley just after the new year. And up front, leading the line, it's Danny Welbeck on the bench. So that means it's Halalamus Kostoulas who comes in there. Greek striker brought in from Olympiacos for £29.8 million. He's only aged 18 as well. It's a very youthful front four for Brighton. Can they make the difference in this game? We'll have to wait and see, as Crystal Palace have decided, but with 2 changes from their last lineup, which was against Nottingham Forest. The new club captain, Dean Henderson, is in goal. He's only ever been beaten once by Brighton in his previous 10 games against them, and that was in a 4-1 away defeat back in February 2024. It's a back 3 of Chris Richards, Maxence Lacroix, and Jefferson Lerma, with the midfield 4. At right wing back is Daniel Munoz, who's making his 70th league appearance. On the left hand side will be Tyreek Mitchell, who's got 2 England caps. They both were back in March 2022. Then 2 central midfielders of Will Hughes and Adam Wharton, who was sent off very recently against Chelsea in their last home game. 3 up front on the right hand side will be Ismail Assar, who's making his 70th Crystal Palace appearance. He's got the 4 goals so far this season, and one of them came last weekend in their 1-1 draw to Nottingham Forest. On the left-hand side will be Yeremy Pino, who was signed for £26 million from Villarreal in the summer. He's only managed 2 league goals so far this season. His most recent was a couple of weeks ago against Sunderland away from home. And then making his debut, leading the line, it's their new number 22. It's Jørgen Strand Larsen, brought in for £48 million from Wolves. It's a club record signing. He is yet to score or win against Brighton in his previous 4 meetings against them. So we are very close to getting underway here at the Amex, as they have got plans to increase the capacity of the stadium. Currently just holds 31,876. They're looking to try and get it expanded to at least 32,500 by the start of next season, as both sets of players are swapping ends. So it looks like it will be Crystal Palace attacking towards the away support in the first half, and Brighton attacking towards their home crowd in the first half to the left hand side as we look onto the pitch. I'm not quite sure who's swapped that over, but it is a fixture that Fabian Herzler is still searching for his first win in. 3 games against them. It's the 1 draw and the 2 defeats. Both of the defeats coming in the league last season. It was a 0-0 draw the last time these two met this season. Crystal Palace ended up with an XG of 0.75 and Brighton's XG was 0.39. Kind of highlights the lack of chances and the lack of good quality chances in that game, as it'll be Crystal Palace do kick off, kicking left to right. It'll be Brighton right to left in this first 45 minutes. It's with the goalkeeper, Dean Henderson, who will send it long for Crystal Palace right on the edge of the Brighton 18-yard box. It's a header won by Dunk, and it's eventually controlled by Kostoulas. Matoma tries to take over, kicked away on the halfway line by Lerma, headed back forward by Dunk, can't be controlled by Ruter in the centre circle, sent back forward for Palace, headed to the goalkeeper of Bruggen by Maxime de Cauper. And we are underway here in the M23 derby, 46 miles between the two grounds. The history of this fixture and the rivalry that has been created dates back to the 1970s. That's kind of where the rivalry first began, as Will Hughes intercepts a pass forward towards Ruter on the Brighton right-hand side, and it'll be a throw-in for Brighton as we're just less than a minute in, and it is still goalless, as it is two teams in desperate need of victories. If Brighton were to win, they could go up to 10th on goal difference, and if Crystal Palace win, they'll move up into 13th position from 15th, overtaking Brighton in the table with a win, as it's Munoz for Crystal Palace as the away side have won the ball back. They go to the halfway line to Lerma, who sweeps it across to his left to Lacroix, who's making his 60th Premier League appearance this afternoon. It's on the far side of Hughes, down the line for Mitchell. Brighton one offside. The flag doesn't go up at the moment, and it never goes up for them, as the cross from Mitchell is blocked off by Howell. The 17-year-old making his first ever Premier League start blocks the cross, and it's a thrown right towards the corner flag, putting a lot of trust in the youngster this afternoon. He's actually the cousin to Jack Hinshelwood, who's on the bench this afternoon for Brighton, and his uncle Adam Hinshelwood is currently the manager of Worthing as well, so a lot of football relations within the ranks here at Brighton, as it's a long throw-in, put into the near post. It's headed on by Lerma, it's looping up in the air, headed on by Belieber, helped forward by Wharton, but straight to Kadioglu, who plays it to the left-back, De Cauper in a left-back position, wanting to try and switch the ball across towards Dunk, and he takes out 4 Crystal Palace players in the process with that pass, and it's now played forward to Howell, the 17-year-old making his first Premier League start. He drives forward with the ball, looking to switch out towards the left-hand side, and finds Jorginho Ruter in the final third, one-on-one with Lerma, trying to go on the outside of the Colombian. It happens, and he gets the cross into the box, and it's cleared behind for a corner. It's a lively start there from Ruter. It's his first real run at one of the Crystal Palace defenders there, and he very easily got round Lerma, but the low-driven cross to the near post wasn't quite what was needed to create a decent chance there for Brighton. But just over 3 minutes in, they've got the first corner of the game. Dunk's up there, Boscagli's up there as well, Belieber's making his way into the area, as it'll be a right-footed in-swinger from this near side from Pascal Gross, who delivers the ball in deep to the far post. Dunk goes for the header, headed across goal. It's not been dealt with by Crystal Palace, and eventually sliced behind for another corner by Maxence Lacroix. A little bit of panic in there from the French centre-back. So it's going to be a copy and paste from the last corner. Same side and the same taker. It's a right arm raised by Pascal Gross, and it goes into a similar area to the back post. Dunk wins the header again, but this time over the bar it goes from the Brighton captain, and it's a goal kick. Just over 4 minutes in here at the Amex. It's Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. Got up the highest ahead of Jefferson and Lerma, but Lewis Dunk just couldn't quite get over the ball off the top of his head and over the crossbar. Been at the club since 2003. Lewis Dunk joined at the under-12s level. He's now making his 510th Brighton appearance. 10 red cards within the previous 509. 5 straight red cards. 5 which was accumulated by picking up 2 yellow cards. That's captain Dean Henderson. Big kick forward towards Pino midway inside the Brighton half. His header won by Kadioglu. Second header won by Belieber. Picked up by Tyreek Mitchell on the Palace left, who's been chased down by Howell. Returns it into his own half here to Chris Richards on the left-hand side. Lacroix, time on the ball for the central centre-back in that back three for the away side. Forward from Richards, Pino to Hughes, and around the corner, it gives something for Strand Larsen to chase. Verbruggen's out of his area to kick it straight on to the Norwegian striker, and it goes for a goal kick. Just putting Bart Verbruggen under a little bit of pressure there. Jørgen Strand Larsen, who was bought permanently by Wolves in the summer for £23 million after that successful loan spell last campaign. And they're able to make a £25 million profit within 6 months, which is good business for Wolves, but doesn't look like the season for them will get any better. Probably will end up in relegation. As De Cowper sends it forward for Brighton. Beyond the halfway line, it's going to be for Richards to deal with. And eventually got it out to the left to Mitchell, who's been closed down by Ruter. Restarts with his goalkeeper of Dean Henderson, who will send a left-footed clearance up the pitch towards Strand Larsen. Does win the header towards Sarr. Second header won by Boscagli, but straight to Strand Larsen. Tries to send it out to the right side to Munoz. Slightly too much on it from the debutant. And it will be a throw-in in a left-back position for Brighton and Hove Albion, who's picked up 5 wins at home so far this season in the Premier League. Just 1, though, in their last 6, but they've only been beaten once at home in the league, and that was the 4-3 defeat to Aston Villa at the start of December. Just too many draws so far at home, 6 in that 12 that they've already played at home here at the Amex in the league, as Wharton drives forward with the ball, runs into traffic and loses out. And it's now towards Kostoulas, who loses out to Hughes, but the loose ball drops to De Cowper. His pass deflects to Gross. Now Ruter, strong tackle for Richards, but it's fair. And it's now with Ismail Assar. Working it to Munoz on the right-hand side, midway inside the Brighton half, going backwards 10 yards to Hughes, and then back once more to Lerma, who is usually a midfielder but can certainly fill in as one of those 3 centre-backs, as they're still covering for the loss of Mark Gahey, who was sold for £20 million to Manchester City as he was out of contract in the summer. On the edge of the 18-yard box for Crystal Palace is towards the quad, just about gets there ahead of Matoma. Slightly loose ball there from Henderson as Lerma sends it down the right-hand side into the Brighton half towards Strand Larsen. Munoz can't quite touch it back into the striker. It's dealt with by Boscagli. De Cowper with the switch, brilliantly brought down by Ruter in the centre circle. Playing it to the far right-hand side here to Howell on his Premier League first start. Returns it to the halfway line to Kadioglu, the Turkish right-back, who's making his 21st start in a row in all competitions. The only game where he's not featured in at all this season was their home win in August to Manchester City, as a ball over the top towards Matoma and behind was just slightly overhit, and it ran through to Dean Henderson in the end. Still over 8 minutes in, still goalless. No real big chances for either of the two teams early on, as Crystal Palace are looking for a first win since the middle of December in all competitions. Ball forward towards Sarr, dealt with by Brighton's back line. They've got it forward to the halfway line to Kostoulas, who is battling with Lerma, and he is able to keep it. He'll just have to go back, but it's better than losing the ball altogether. And it's with Pascal Gross. Everyone behind the ball in a Crystal Palace shirt. Number 29, Maxime De Cowper, brought in from Club Brugge for £17.5 million in the summer. Scored against Aston Villa last season in Club Brugge's last 16 tie against Villa in the Champions League. And that was his only Champions League goal of the campaign. As it's Howell. Ruter back through for Howell. Can't quite beat Lacroix to the ball, who's cleared it forward, but it's played back by Gross on the halfway line to Lewis Dunk. And it's just finding some settled possession here, Brighton. Of course, they want to try and get the ball forward as quickly as possible. We don't want to give away the ball too easily. This is with Harry Howell. The 17-year-old, who's been at the club since the age of 7, can also play off the right-hand side, which he's doing this afternoon for Fabian Hürzeler. His dunk, low ball forward to Howell, in between the lines. It's well picked up by the youngster, and there's a switch on to the left-hand side, and he'll curl it through for De Cowper, just in front of the halfway line. He goes down the line to Mitoma, who's one-on-one with Lerma towards the byline. Chops back onto his right foot, plays it to De Cowper. First time cross, blocked off by Wharton. Helped away by Sarr to the corner flag to Lerma. Forward to Munoz. It's now Sarr, who's been pressed heavily, but can just about shift it back to Lerma. Clip down the right channel towards Strand Larsen, who glances it on, but no one's running in behind him. And it's possession for Brighton once more with Ferdi Kadioglu. Olivier Boscagli on the ball, making just his 6th Premier League appearance, and he gives the ball away to Strand Larsen, who plays it through to the right-hand side to Ismail Assar, just outside the area for now. Plays it back to Munoz, who joins in the attack. He crosses deep towards the far post. Header by Gross. And then a second challenge needed to be made as he's been put under pressure by Pino. Eventually cleared forward by Verbruggen. It drops to Costulas, trying to play the ball if he can. He's being watched by Wharton, but he can't be tackled by him. And he plays it forward to Mitoma, who's been shoved off the ball there by Lerma, who heads away. And that'll be a Brighton throw-in on the near side. Not quite scoring the same amount of goals as he did last season. Kaoru Mitoma scored 10 last season and 3 in his last 5. And they were all off the bench as well. Never scored, though, against Crystal Palace, the Japanese winger. That's Brighton on the ball, on this near side, with Olivier Boscagli, who spent 8 years coming through at Nice in France, and then spent the last 6 years in the Netherlands with PSV, winning 2 league titles. Just slowly trying to find his way into the Brighton starting 11, and he might have more chances if this Van Hecker injury is a little bit more serious than they think, as dunks ball over the top again towards Matoma's, caught by Henderson, who throws it over his head. And out wide right to Daniel Munoz, who is such an attacking threat for Crystal Palace on that right-hand side. Has scored in this fixture, and it was the winner in the 2-1 win against them last season at Selhurst Park. There was 3 red cards in that game, and surprisingly Munoz wasn't one of the ones who was sent off. Has 3 red cards for his country, 1 on his debut against Peru, but he's never been sent off yet for Crystal Palace since joining 2 years ago from Genk for just under £7 million. I mean, that is a bargain from Crystal Palace, as they've won the ball back high here on this right-hand side. It's with Munoz going into the middle to Wharton. Turns up well. Thought he turned away from Baliba, but just got caught as he nearly got away from his man, and that will be a free kick for Crystal Palace, whose last 3 Premier League wins have been away from home. The last time they won at home in the league was back on the 1st of November against Brentford. They've only picked up 7 league wins this season so far, Crystal Palace. 13 they picked up last season. So just under 13 minutes in, just towards the right-hand side, about 40 yards from goal. They've got an opportunity to cross the ball into the box. It's going to be taken by Yeremy Pino, the 23-year-old, who's going to clip it towards the back post. There's a free man of Lerma, who can head it across, headed up into the air by Kadioglu, headed away by Costulas, all his far shoes on the edge of the area, back in from Pino, header away there, I think from Boscagli, headed back in by Mitchell, glanced out wide by Richards, and then cleared for Brighton, in behind for Mitoma, well read by Dean Henderson, well out of his area, but cleared it successfully. Headed back forward by De Cowper, towards Costulas, who can keep it away from Yeremy Pino, then lift it out wide to Jorginho Ruta on the left wing, surrounded by 2 Palace shirts, and eventually kicks it out of play himself there, the Brighton number 10. And that'll be a throw-in for Crystal Palace. They had lost their previous 3 away league games in a row. Crystal Palace, before that draw last weekend against Nottingham Forest, they'd been beaten by Sunderland, Newcastle and Leeds, but were able to draw 1-1 against Nottingham Forest. A little bit of a frustrating point, really, because even though they went behind early in the 5th minute through Gibbs White, they equalised just before half-time for Ismail Assar and a penalty, but that penalty was due to a handball by Nico Williams, and he got sent off. So they were against 10 men for the second half, but were not able to get the winning goal. Strand Larsen sees a running behind from Ismail Assar. There's a poke on the ball from Boscagli, which is key. Sends it to his goalkeeper, who then plays it back to Boscagli, who gets rid. But the flag's up from the run of Ismail Assar, so it's a free kick for Brighton anyway. It would have been close if Ismail Assar had gone through and scored. VAR certainly would have had to have intervened just to make sure if he was offside, or maybe potentially would have been onside. It's Brighton in possession, just about to tick into the 15th minute of the match. It's Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. 7 of the last 13 meetings between these two have been draws. 6 of their 8 draws in the Premier League have been 1-1. Of course, their last meeting was a 0-0 at Selhurst Park, with just 5 shots on target in the whole game. And there he is on the bench, James Milner. If he comes on today, he will equal Gareth Barry's record for the most Premier League appearances with 653. Still going strong, James Milner at the age of 40 years old. Turned 40 on the 4th of January. Incredible professional. He's got the 1 goal this season. That was the equaliser in their win at home to Manchester City at the end of August. De Cowper, forward into the Palace half for Kostoulas, who returns it to the Brighton half to Boscagli. Switches on to Kadioglu, and it's perfectly weighted, but he just couldn't quite take it under control there. The Turkish right back. And that'll be a throw-in for Crystal Palace, who are on a run now of 63 days since their last win in the Premier League, that one against Fulham. But since that win, they've drew 3, lost 6, always scoring 5 goals, which is a huge worry for Oliver Glasner, who looks to be leaving at the end of the season. It's broke free for Brighton, but the referee's given the free kick, which had happened beforehand. It's a yellow card for Will Hughes, given by today's referee, Thomas Bramall. It was Kostoulas who was tackled by Lacroix, and the ball went loose towards Rutter, who did a beautiful flick out wide for Howell, but he was caught by Hughes. Probably the right decision for a free kick. Debate if it was a yellow card, with it being Will Hughes' first challenge. But Harry Howell did have the ball free in the final third there. I think that's where there's a little bit of annoyance from the Brighton and Hove Albion players, more the fact they could have been an advantage, but the referee didn't play it. He's booked Will Hughes instead, and on the right side of the box, about 30 or so yards out, it's a bit wide, this, so I think a shot is possible, but I think the smarter play will probably be a cross into the box. Dunk's been sent forward, so has his centre-back partner Olivier Boscagli, who's still searching for his first Premier League goal. Did score for Brighton in their League Cup win away at Oxford in the second round. Pascal Gross is stood over it right-footed, and he'll be the one to take it. It is going to be a crossing towards Lewis Dunk, whose header just goes wide. Couple of yards wide in the end from the captain, who's still searching for his first league goal of the season. Beat Lacroix to the header as it was curled away from goal by Gross. Has scored 1 time against Crystal Palace in his career, Lewis Dunk. That was in their 4-1 home win against Crystal Palace just under 2 years ago now. As Palace have it in their own half. Sarr turning away from De Cowper. Then inside to Strand Larsen. Try to go out wide to Munoz. Cut out by Boscagli. And it's now in the middle of the park for Brighton with Howell. Goes to the right back in the defensive third. Ferdy Kadioglu. To the keeper. Verbruggen being closed down by Strand Larsen. Just about passes it across the 18-yard box to Boscagli. Now De Cowper at left back. Low ball down the line. Tackled by Lacroix. But loose ball drops to Kostoulas, who plays it straight into the middle of the park to Hughes. But as the pass was released, he was fouled, Kostoulas, and that'll be a free kick for Brighton. I think the foul was actually on Mitoma as he was brought down by the Crystal Palace defender. It's on the far side for Brighton. Kadioglu. Back into Gross. Dunk to Boskagli, left centre-back. Finds the pass to De Cowper, and Brighton have beaten the first line of the Palace press as they've switched it to the right flank to Kadioglu, who will keep it in with the chested touch. Just in front of the halfway line, he just stops on the ball and plays it across to the halfway line to Dunk. Boskagli. Monaco-born centre-half, who is a former France under-21 international earlier on in his career. Never quite broke into the French senior team as he works it to De Cowper. He tried to go in behind there for Kostoulas, who wanted it to feet instead. So Palace have picked it back up and have worked it to the right flank here to Ismail Assar on the halfway line. Across 5 yards to Wharton. It's now Hughes in the centre circle with time on the ball. Dropped into some spaces, Jeremy Pino. Mitchell back into Hughes. Chris Richards, the American international at centre-back, on the ball. He's never won in his previous 3 against Brighton, as he was injured for both of the games against Brighton last season, where Crystal Palace won. As the ball's been played out of play by the Crystal Palace midfield, as Oliver Glasner barks out some instructions. This is his 99th game in charge. Only won one of his first 6 in charge. But from the previous 98, they've only lost 28, which is a very, very solid record. 21.5 minutes in. It's still 0-0, and we're still waiting for the first proper chance of this game. We've had a dunk header, which was wide from the free kick. As it's opening up for Brighton on the right-hand side, it's Harry Howell. Misplaced ball looking for the overlap of Kadioglu. Howell trying to win it back on Tyreek Mitchell. Good battling between the two players. He avoids the pass going forward. It's a throw-in for Crystal Palace. Just needs that added quality there, Harry Howell. Just couldn't quite get it in front of his teammate there. Bit of a lazy pass from the 17-year-old. Turns 18 in just about 2.5 months' time on the 20th of April. Born in 2008. His only other start for Brighton was in the League Cup this season against Oxford, which was in the first round, And he picked up 2 assists in that game, the youngster. As Crystal Palace have it, just in front of their 18-yard box with the number 26, Chris Richards, who spent 3 years at Bayern Munich, made 10 appearances for them. Just didn't quite make it as a first-team player for the German Giants. There's Lerma, long ball, high ball down the right channel. It's calmly dealt with by Dunk as he chests it down and plays it forward with a high ball. It's cut out by Lerma, who gets there ahead of Kostoulas. And he switches it to the left flank here to Tyreek Mitchell. Slightly isolated on the left-hand side. The wing-back, who can go into the middle to Hughes. Everyone behind the ball here for Brighton as he's played back to Richards. Forward again to Hughes. And then back to Richards once more. He's now made over 100 appearances for Crystal Palace since joining from Bayern Munich in July 2022 for £8.5 million. As there's a mix-up in the middle for Crystal Palace, and Ismail Assar loses out, and it's now out to the right-hand side here to Jorginho Ruta, running towards goal, trying to release it. He's been tackled instead, and the ball deflects into the hands of Dean Henderson. And we are still at 0-0 at the Amex between these two. Dean Henderson drops the ball onto the ground. Goes to the right to Lacroix. Low ball forward. It's a good ball as well. Finding Jeremy Pino, who's just drifted towards the right-hand side. Plays a left-sided pass to Hughes. And out once more to Tyreek Mitchell, who's forward from wing-back. Takes on Howell and crosses into the area just behind Strand Larsen. Cleared by Dunk. Controlled by Ruta. Into his own area where it's clipped forward by Kadioglu. Headed forward by Kostoulas. Can't quite find the run of Howell. And it's now on the far side for Palace with Mitchell. Forward to Jeremy Pino. Can turn forward and look at goal. Try to slip it through for Strand Larsen. Just takes a slight nick. And it goes through to Bart Verbruggen, As Brighton have only won one of their last 12 in the Premier League, a run from the beginning of December. And their last 2 wins that they've picked up have both been 2-0 wins. Against Burnley most recently at home, and then away at Forest back on the 30th of November. So wins have been hard to come by for both of these two sides. Just 1 win in the last 5 against Crystal Palace of Brighton. That was in that famous home win back in February 2024, which ended 4-1 to the Seagulls. As it's Baliba loses that in the centre circle to Ismail Assar. He's got Pino to his left and Strand Larsen to his right. Runs into Dunk instead, but the ball deflects to Pino on that left wing position. Plays it towards Strand Larsen. He wasn't ready for that pass. He's been tackled by Boscagli. Howell, tackled from behind by Mitchell, rolls out for a throw-in for the home team in a right-back position. Brighton's record at home in the Premier League is very strong. They've only lost 4 of their last 31 Premier League home games from the start of the 24-25 season. And in those 4 defeats, 2 of them have been to Aston Villa, and then the other 2 have been a 1-0 defeat to Everton in January 2025, and then the other one was that 3-1 defeat to Palace in December 2024. So a lot of teams come here and struggle to get over the line. Dunk. Switch ball out towards Matoma on the left. Header won by Munoz. As far as De Caupa. Forward to Costulas, who's tackled fairly by Lerma. It's now Wharton sending the ball over the top for Sarr. Will he beat Boscagli to it? He will. But he's been shoved to the ground by the Frenchman. And the foul's been given. Just a shove in the back there from Olivier Boscagli. Ismail Assar was always going to get there. Yeah, just a push into the back and in a right wing position. That will be a free kick for Crystal Palace. Well won there by Ismail Assar, because if he'd got the ball and was on his feet, he didn't have many options around him anyway. So it's going to be a left-footed delivery from what looks like Will Hughes. It's a free kick, which is towards the byline. There's a one-man wall of Matoma. Wish you well in your stream, Engine. Thank you very much for that. I hope you are enjoying. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already, as Will Hughes puts the right arm in the air and delivers it towards the box, where the header's gone away from goal and eventually cleared away by Matoma with his left boot. Straight to the halfway line to Tyreek Mitchell, who's going to restart with the Crystal Palace goalkeeper of Dean Henderson. He will kick it long towards Strand Larsen. It goes over Boscagli's head, couldn't quite be controlled by the Norwegian striker. And it's now with Boscagli at left centre-back. Curling it down the line towards Costulas, who touches it into Matoma in a central area, and the space opens up for Brighton on the right-hand side. It's been played to Howell, who's got the overlap of Kadioglu, plays it into the Turkish right-back, who then crosses it in. It's just headed away by Lacroix, a key interception. And now Palace can try and turn and go the other way. Strand Larsen, he's got Ismail Assar to his right, plays it to the Senegalese international, who's running at the Brighton defence, stops on the edge of the area, and then gets tackled by Ruter as he runs into traffic. Didn't quite release it in time, and the play's been stopped because Ismail Assar is holding his face as he was met by the run of Jorginho Ruter, who was just coming back trying to do his defensive duties. Just not enough bodies going forward there for Crystal Palace on the turnover, as they were able to win the possession back and get on the counter-attack. Don't think that was a foul. Probably was hit by a heavy force there, Ismail Assar. I was very much looking forward to this game. I was quite excited to see what kind of game we'd get. I think with both teams struggling, though, both lacking that confidence going towards goal, and it's been a pretty lacklustre first half an hour so far at the Amex. But it's an interesting time for both. Fabian Hertzler certainly under pressure from the Brighton supporters, and Oliver Glasner's took it upon himself to leave Crystal Palace at the end of his contract, which is at the end of this season. He said in interviews and quite openly that he's felt abandoned by the Crystal Palace board in terms of transfers, more so in the summer when they really needed them with the heavy schedule they would have had, of course, with the Conference League and then in the cup competitions as well. Don't get me wrong, they've started to make progress in the window with the signings in January of Brennan Johnson, Evan Gassand, Strand Larsen as well. But it almost felt like a little bit of Glasner was looking to maybe be sacked early by Crystal Palace if he spoke out about the board in a negative way. But Crystal Palace came out and said the only way that Oliver Glasner leaves Crystal Palace is if he leaves himself, which does seem to be the case as we're back underway. And it's Matoma on the left wing, running at Munoz. Still with Matoma, goes on the outside and crosses to the near post. It's gone all the way through, deflects. De Campo with the shot. Blocked by Lacroix. Drops to the edge of the area to Gross. Heads it towards Ruta. Off Hughes into Kadioglu. There's the first real chance of the game, but it's defended well by Palace for now. Ruta trying to play the pass forward, cut out by Richards. Drops to Kadioglu, who crosses. Cleared by Lerma. Controlled by Sarr. One back by Baliba. De Cowper fancies the shot, and it's straight at Dean Henderson. And the game will just fall into a state of pause just for the moment, as it was just a little bit chaotic for the last minute there. The ball across from Matoma was dangerous. It was missed by Kostulas and deflected off Richards to De Cowper, who had the shot towards goal, and that was well blocked by Lacroix. But almost a slight error there from Richards not being able to clear the ball far away enough, as it was almost a goal there again in the Premier League for Maxime De Cowper. His two other Premier League goals have come away from home against Forest and Chelsea, both in victories for Brighton. As Wharton's gone down holding his left knee after a bit of a late challenge on him there, as the ball was there to be won. Referee has given the free kick here for Crystal Palace. Munoz played Wharton the ball. His touch was just heavy, and he has got there ahead of Matoma, who just, I think, caught his knee. Let's have a look. Matoma had every right to go for it. Wharton's beaten to it. It was a slight stud catch in the left leg of Wharton. I think that's a bit of a harsh free kick to give, in all honesty. He kind of put himself in that scenario, Adam Wharton, with his poor touch. It's Fabian Hertzler, the Brighton head coach, is letting the fourth official know, James Bell, that I don't think he thinks that was a free kick, and I think he's got a strong argument for that. About midway inside the Brighton half on this right-hand side, it's a free kick for Crystal Palace. They're going to send it in towards the 18-yard box through Yeremy Pino. In it goes towards Munoz, who heads it forward, glanced by Lacroix. Ball drops in the area towards Adam Wharton, who sends it high and wide with his right boot, and that'll be a goal kick for Brighton. Same thing happening again from a Crystal Palace free kick. They send it towards the far post, and both times they've had a player win the first contact, but after that they've not been able to test Verbruggen in the Brighton goal. So 12 minutes to go until half time. It's still Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. Of course, later on we've got Liverpool taking on Manchester City in the Premier League. Probably the more standout of the two fixtures this afternoon. As this M23 derby is lacked real quality, even though I think Brighton have just slightly been the better team, as Matoma's been fed through into the box on the left-hand side, been forced away from goal by Lerma, but the flag goes up anyway. Matoma offside as the ball was released towards him. This time last year, Brighton had to reject a bid for Matoma from Al Nassr in the Saudi Pro League. Not quite had the same interest in him this time around, as he still searches for his first ever goal against Crystal Palace. So free kick from the offside will be taken by Dean Henderson, and they're going to go long out towards the right-hand side, where it's a free header for De Cowper. Straight to Mitoma, playing it back into De Cowper in the defensive third for Brighton. High ball into the middle, glanced on by Ruter. It'll be Mitchell to get there first ahead of Howell. And he goes to Dean Henderson, who kicks it up into the air towards the centre circle. And he fought by Gross, controlled by Kostulas. Can't quite get away from Richards, but the flick from Strand Larsen is collected by Belieber, who wraps it out to the left-hand side to Ruter, who's going to keep it in. And he's going to take a heavy touch into the box to try and get around Lerma. Slight push on the Colombian. And that will be a free kick for Crystal Palace. Jorginho Ruter knows what he's doing, but that slight push always going to be given as a free kick as soon as Lerma hits the deck. Yeah, a right hand straight into the back. And there was only ever one thought in Jefferson Lerma's mind, and that was to hit the floor and make sure his team got the free kick to relieve the pressure, as it's another long free kick from Dean Henderson. It's going to be a header won by Dunk. Wharton gets the second ball and then finds Sarr to Munoz, kicks it off Mitoma, and that's going to be a throw-in the final third on this near side for Crystal Palace. It's going to be taken here by Daniel Munoz, who's got 18 goal contributions in his previous 69 Premier League appearances. He's got 10 goals altogether for Crystal Palace in all competitions, and the last 4 of his goals have all come away from home, and they've all been scored this campaign. 3 in the Premier League to Burnley, Wolves and Everton. His last back on the 3rd of December. As the long throw-in goes in, it's not dealt with here by Brighton. Wharton putting in a header which can't quite go towards goal. Eventually cleared for Brighton. As far as Tyreek Mitchell on this near side, he's going to put it back in towards the 18-yard box. Verbruggen's coming for it and will catch it and will quickly roll it. And there's a chance on the break here for Brighton. It's Pascal Gross bringing it into the Crystal Palace half, but the away team have got plenty of bodies back in very quick time. And it's going to be Brighton to settle down in possession once more. De Cowper beyond the halfway line. Kostulas, who is dropping in to a number 10 role more often than not, which opens up a little bit of space in behind him, where obviously the runners need to do their jobs, as it's Gross into the edge of the box to Ruter. Wharton coming across, but he can't stop him having a shot, and as the shot is taken, it's blocked by his own man Kadioglu, who stood in an offside position, and that'll be a free kick once more for Crystal Palace. Fabian Hürzeler's side has definitely been the better of the two teams, I would say, in the first 37 minutes, but again, not really had a lot of big chances. De Cowper has probably had the biggest one about 10 minutes ago now, as he had a shot in the 18-yard box, but that was blocked by Maxence Lacroix. Big kick forward again from Henderson towards Strand Larsen. It's gone beyond him and Boscagli. And De Cowper can clear it. He hooks it, but it's not very convincing. Final third throw-in for Palace on this near side. It's going to be a long launched throwing in from Chris Richards, as Maxence Lacroix just wanting more from the Crystal Palace supporters from behind that goal, trying to make a little bit more noise. Richards with the throw towards the near post, glanced on, Belieber needs to clear it, and he kicks it off a Palace man, which was Strand Larsen, and he goes behind for a goal kick. Got away with that one there. Brighton and Carlos Belieber throwing into the box, and it was a good header won by Lacroix, and it almost dropped for Strand Larsen, but it was Belieber who was able to hurry it away and win his team a goal kick. Goal kick for Brighton, taken to Verbruggen, who can kick it out towards the right-hand side, well over the head of Kadioglu. Throw-in for Crystal Palace, with 6 minutes to go left of the first half. As Crystal Palace have won 3 of their last 6 away from home at Brighton. drawing one of those previous 6 and losing the other 2 as Munoz breaks away in the box and the cross goes in. Had to be headed behind by Dunk as Crystal Palace start to eventually grow into this game. From the throw, and it was glanced on. Strong Larsen held it up and completed a good 1-2 with Hughes. Then Wharton fed it out wide to Munoz, who put the ball into the 6-yard area, and that's where Dunk was there to meet it and head it behind from the near post. It's going to be a left-footed in-swinger here from Will Hughes. 21st appearance against Brighton. It's the team he's faced the most in his career. He's played against them once, which was in the Championship playoff semi-final in 2014, which he ended up going through to the final with Derby as he swings it to the back post. It's a punch away from Verbruggen. Someone clatters into the post there for Crystal Palace. I think it was Lerma, but the touch from Verbruggen's gone all the way through for a throw-in on the near side, and it looks like Lerma is absolutely fine. So again, it's going to be Chris Richards to wind up another long throw. It's probably been Crystal Palace's most dangerous asset so far, these long throws. And it goes again to the near post. It's a header won by Dunk this time. Does drop to Richards, who can maybe put it back in the box, and he will. It's towards Ismail Assar. It's a key header from Boscagli. And I think it's going to be a corner kick for Palace once more on this near side. It's a teasing ball in from Richards. And it looked like it was Sarr's ball to win. But heroically, Boscagli was just about able to head the ball away from the Senegalese international, who comes back to Crystal Palace after winning the Africa Cup of Nations. Didn't score in the tournament, Ismail Assar, but dramatically his country came away with the trophy. As it's Hughes in swinger. It's a deep one towards Lerma, who heads it towards goal. Sarr tried to help it on target. He couldn't quite do so. Rolls behind for a Brighton goal kick. 41.5 minutes in at the Amex. It's still Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. Only won one of their last 6 away from home last season, Crystal Palace, and that was against Spurs on the 11th of May. But did only lose 2 of their last 15 on their travels in the league. And that was against Newcastle, where they lost 5-0, and then also to Manchester City, where they lost 5-2, but they got the bragging rights in the end against Manchester City when they beat them in the FA Cup final. The long goal kick goes towards Rutter. He pushes Lacroix in the back, and the referee, Thomas Bramall's, giving a free kick to Crystal Palace midway inside their own half. Tried to be played towards Sarr. The touch is loose and the ball drops into the midfield for Belieber. Tackled by Hughes. It deflects back off Belieber and cannons all the way back towards Dean Henderson on the edge of the 18-yard box for Crystal Palace. As he kicks it long. It's a header won by Kadioglu towards Belieber on the halfway line, who's been pickpocketed by Wharton. It's Munoz through to Sarr, who's bearing down on goal. And that's a huge challenge from Lewis Dunk. Sliding across to put Ismail Assar under pressure. Belieber frustrated with himself as he was dispossessed by Wharton in the midfield, and then quickly Munoz slipped it through 2 Brighton defenders to play Ismail Assar through, and there wasn't actually a touch from Dunk, but his sliding challenge just distracted Sarr, who couldn't work the right-footed shot on target towards the near post. Probably Sarr and Crystal Palace's biggest chance of the game, as we're 90 seconds off the half-time break. And we are still at 0-0. Long ball forward. Drops to Howell, the youngster. 1-2 with Matoma, then tackled by Lerma. Lacroix gets it forward to Pino. It's now Sarr. Can't quite poke it to Mitchell. Tackle goes in from Gross. Loose ball drops to Sarr on this left-hand side. On the halfway line. Brought to the ground by Kostoulas. Seen as a fair challenge from the referee. The Greek international brings the ball forward. Lays it off to his right to Rutter, who will go with a left-footed cross. Just avoids Howell, who'd made the run into the area, and thankfully gathered by Dean Henderson. As this is now Crystal Palace's 13th successive Premier League campaign within those previous 12 seasons, their average position has been 11th. As Brighton have the ball back already with Lewis Dunk at centre-back. Goes to Gross, who sees a big switch on towards Matoma in the final third, who will bring the ball down ahead of Lerma. Oh, he just couldn't quite keep it away from the Colombian, though he was able to get a foot towards the ball, and then Munoz clears off Costulas, and that will be a goal kick for Crystal Palace as we head towards the end of this first 45 minutes. As for Brighton, all three of their clean sheets at home have been against the newly promoted sides. Most recently against Burnley, but then a 0-0 against Sunderland, and also keeping the door shut against Leeds United. And in their last 3 Premier League games, there has been a goal in added on time at the end of the game. Not always gone in Brighton's favour. Those goals in added on time, as we've got 2 minutes added on here at the end of the first half, as it's with Crystal Palace at the back. But for Brighton, they've, of course, recently conceded that equaliser against Beto in added on time. They lost away at Fulham in added on time to Harry Wilson, but then did grab an equaliser against Bournemouth in added on time at home in that 1-1 draw. Matoma just lands awkwardly, but then gets a slight hand in the face from Lerma. It was accidental from the Colombian, but just requires a bit of attention here. Kaoru Matoma. So it looks like we're probably going to play a little bit more than the 2 added on, as there's another stoppage in this game. As Oliver Glasner just in conversation there with Will Hughes, who's got a contract until the end of next season. He signed a new deal back in April of last year. He's now started 8 of the last 9 Premier League games. Will Hughes have run since the 20th of December. So still, we wait for the treatment to end on Kaoru Matoma. As for Crystal Palace, they have won 3 times here at the Amex in the Premier League. Winning in December 2024, February 2021 and February 2020. There's Matoma, just a slight knock to the nose, bit of blood, which is being dealt with by the Brighton medical staff. Of course, half-time is coming up, so they'll be able to really check over the Japanese winger just to see if he will be able to continue. Dean Henderson there, newly appointed captain of Crystal Palace, making his 96th appearance for the club this afternoon. He's almost at 150 Premier League appearances. Today he's making his 148th. Does have 4 England caps to his name as well. Made his debut against the Republic of Ireland in October 2020. As if Matoma, for some reason, wasn't able to continue, they have got options off the bench. Brighton with Yankuba Minte, Matt O'Reilly, who's returned from his loan at Marseille, Diego Gomez as well. Danny Welbeck is an attacker as well. Maybe not as a winger, but they could shift a few things around. As we're back underway, it's been a drop ball to Dean Henderson. Matoma will be back on as quickly as possible for the home side, as Dean Henderson aims for Munoz, avoids him, Andy Cowper, and it'll be a throw in a left-back position for Brighton as Matoma is allowed back on the pitch, as we've probably just got about a minute left of the first half. Long throw. Kicked out of play by Lacroix. Another throw in on the halfway line. This time for Brighton. As the referee looks at his watch and decides that's enough of the first half. As at the Amex, it's currently Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. It's a game that has lacked real chances. We've had a De Cowper shot in the 18-yard box, which was blocked by Lacroix. Crystal Palace have had one half opportunity towards the end of the half as Ismail Assar was played through on goal by Munoz, but he wasn't able to work it on target after a sliding challenge from Dunk just put him off, and he wasn't able to work the goalkeeper. In a game that's lacked chances and real quality, it's no surprise that it's goal as at half-time here. It is Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. As for half-time, I'm going to have a quick break. Make sure you come back in around 15 minutes as we'll bring second half live commentary of the M23 derby. As at the moment, at half-time, it is Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 0. Oh, we are back for the second half as Brighton and Crystal Palace currently 0-0. Not the most exciting of first halves, especially for a derby, but as I mentioned in the first half, it's just two teams who are desperately out of form and are lacking confidence. That's what it looks like. Just in the way they're attacking, not as much as defending. They're both defending okay, but it's more when they go forward. I don't know. There's just a lack of real, I don't know, optimism within the squad that they're going to make something from the attack. So hopefully that changes in the second half, because Brighton can just edge themselves into the top half of the table if they win. They could go up to 10th on goal difference. Got some difficult games coming up as well. They've got 3 away games on the bounce. Brighton, they've travelled into Aston Villa in the week, and then at the next weekend they've got Liverpool away in the FA Cup, and then they've got travel to Brentford away in the next league game after that. So 3 very challenging away fixtures there for Brighton. And for Crystal Palace, they've got Burnley at home in the week, which, if there's a game that you'd want to end your run of games without winning, it's certainly Burnley at home. They're struggling massively. I think they're 15 now without a win in the league. Scott Parker's side. And then they've got Zarinsky in the first leg of their Conference League playoff game. They're away from home in the first leg. And then they've got Wolves at home after that. So they've got Burnley and Wolves in the next 2 league games at Selhurst Park. So if there is a chance to get back onto winning ways, it's going to be against 2 of the most struggling teams in the league. Obviously, it's the bottom 2. I don't think any of the 2 managers have made changes. We'll double check that once we've properly kicked off. It's been an interesting debut for Jørgen Strand Larsen. I feel like from the scraps he's had to work off, I think he's applied himself very well. He's won a good few flick-ons. There's just not many players getting in behind him and working off his flick-ons and trying to get on the second ball. As it does look like we are unchanged from the first half, as it'll be Brighton kicking left to right towards the Palace fans in on that right-hand side of the stadium, and Brighton right to left, as it is Brighton 2 kickers off, and they'll go long via their goalkeeper. It's cleared by Wharton. Strand Larsen coming back from an offside position, so it'll be a free kick for Brighton, who had a much better start to the season. The highest position they've been in the league table has been 5th, and that was at the end of November, so it has just been the last couple of months where they've really struggled, of course, with that run of just 1 win in their last 11 in the league. As both teams have got plenty on the bench if they feel like something needs to change. Kostoulas on the left wing for Brighton, finding Matoma, returning it to Kostoulas, who can't quite get in between Lacroix and Munoz on the corner flag, kicks it inside to Lerma, who's just going to get rid of his left foot towards Pino, headed on by Gross, controlled by Howell, as far as Belieber, who turns really well, and he went to strike it, but Howell took it off him. But they have kept it moving well to Kadioglu. Now Gross on the right wing, back here into Howell on his Premier League first start. Boscagli, beautifully clipped ball to Gross, who's still on this right-hand side, dinks it into the area for Ruta, can't touch it into a Brighton player, and that's going to be cleared for Crystal Palace only as far as Boscagli, who will return it to the goalkeeper of Verbruggen. Boscagli just knocked to the ground as he released the ball back to his goalkeeper, and that will be a free kick to Brighton, which has been taken very quickly there. As is the home team, who were the better team in the first half, and it looks like they've started the brighter out of the 2 in the second half. Kadioglu into a central area as he drives inside from right back. Played the pass to Kostoulas. Now Gross again on that right-hand side, playing it forward to Howell, who is being followed and tracked by Chris Richards. Tracked to turn one way, then the other, and eventually seen behind for a goal kick. He's not quite having the impact I think Fabian Herzler would have wanted for the young 17-year-old. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the first to come off in this game. He's clearly got ability, but in a derby, in a game where Brighton need points, I think it'll be better if they maybe bring on the likes of a Yankuba Minter, who they brought in last season from Newcastle. Just the one goal for him, though, this season. But he's not started now, the Gambian, in any of Brighton's last 6 Premier League games. Long kick taken for Palace, up towards Strand Larsen. It's a header won by Dunk, controlled by Kostulas, headed away by Mitchell, as far as Kostulas, who heads it back forward, can't find Ruta, played back to Henderson by Lerma. Left-footed clearance from the former Manchester United goalkeeper, chested down by Pino, but straight to Howell. Completes a 1-2 with Kadioglu. Howell trying to go forward, and he gets away from Mitchell. And Richards goes down, but Ruta takes over, slips it through for Kostulas. It's now with Gross on the right wing, who will cross it. It goes behind Baliba, headed away by Munoz as it was aimed towards Mitoma. And now Ismail Assar can run with the ball and try and slip it through for Strand Larsen, who will go over after the challenge from Dunk. He's just about timed it right, the captain. And Brighton can clear it down the line beyond Sarr to Mitoma. Last touch off Lerma. Throwing for Brighton. It was a very key tackle there from Lewis Dunk, as if he got that wrong, Strand Larsen was in. 34 years of age now, Lewis Dunk, making his 290th appearance. He has got the record for the most appearances in the Premier League by a Brighton player. Wharton in behind for Pino. He'll be dealt with by Boscagli, who's impressed in this game. Joined on a free from PSV, won the league last season by a point. Was part of the PSV team, though, that were beaten 9-3 on aggregate by Arsenal in the Champions League last 16. But this is just his 4th start in the Premier League. He'd only made 2 starts in the last 8, and they were against Sunderland and Fulham. But coming in for Van Hecke, who's just out with a precautionary hamstring problem, we'll be looking to try and make a mark as Crystal Palace break away the ball. On the right-hand side, cross goes beyond Strand Larsen, easily caught by Verbruggen. The chances made for Strand Larsen have been very poor by Crystal Palace this afternoon so far. Really had to just feed off complete scraps so far, the 6'4" Norwegian. He does have 6 goals this season in all competitions. He's got a hat-trick in the FA Cup 3rd round against Shrewsbury, and then got a brace in the League Cup win that they picked up against Everton whilst he was at Wolves. Mitoma, tackled by Munoz, last touch off the Colombian. It's a throw-in for Brighton, about 10 yards inside the Palace half. Boscagli. I'm going back to Verbruggen, who's just outside the Brighton 18-yard area. Switches it across the right to Gross, who's picking up a little bit more space on this Brighton right as he goes to Dunk. Tries to send it over the top for Mitoma, who can chest it down, but again, that chested touch goes straight through for Henderson. Easy catch for the 28-year-old. He's got a high-quality passing range. Lewis Dunk, whose last England call-up was for the Euros in 2024. Didn't play any minutes in the competition, was more of a bench warmer, but he's not been called up since. As Hughes trips Gross on the halfway line. That's going to be a free kick for Brighton. He was a much welcomed return, Pascal Gross, for €1.5 million, signing the contract till the end of next season. Never scored, though, against Crystal Palace in his previous 12 against them, the German. And he's only beaten them 3 times, and they've all come here at the Amex. Boscagli. Played out to the left here to Mitoma on the halfway line, away from the challenge of Sarr. He's got Wharton chasing him from behind. He plays it through for Ruta, whose touch can't quite get himself away from Richards. Played back to Henderson, who clears it first time up towards Strand Larsen, who heads it back towards a Palace teammate. But instead of going to Sarr, it drops straight to Gross. And 7 minutes into the second half, it's been Brighton who have been the much better team, as Kadioglu will bring it forward from right back, using the right winger of Howell into Gross. Everyone behind the ball for Crystal Palace, as it's with Boscagli just in front of the centre circle in the Palace half. Goes to his left to De Cowper. Mitoma back to De Cowper once more, the Belgian international, who's got 4 goals for his country, but he's not scored any of the last 5 for Belgium. Costulas, who's linked up the play and held up the play really well this afternoon for Brighton. It's not quite had the runners around him to force Crystal Palace into any real defensive work. De Cowper beyond the halfway line. He's got Mitoma in front of him. Goes to his right inside here to Baliba. Kadioglu's just drifting inside from right back, and he will find the Turkish international. Kadioglu tackled by Pino. Loose ball does drop though to Howell just on the edge of the area. Been forced away from goal by Tyreek Mitchell, but he turns forward and plays it to Kadioglu, who will cross low. It deflects. It's cleared by Lacroix straight to the chest of Baliba. It goes back to Duncan. There's real pressure being asserted here by Brighton. As Gross goes across into the centre circle here to Olivier Boscagli. Dunk. Forward to Gross. Having to go all the way back to Verbruggen. And again, this game still just lacking that little bit of extra quality. Gross. Tries the switch. It cannons off the ankle of Sarr, and he can't chase his own loose ball in time before Mitoma got there, and it's now Brighton to try and attack down the left-hand side. Midway side the Palace half, goes back 10 yards into Boscagli. Back out wide to Mitoma. Boscagli again. No real options in front of him, so has to go back to Dunk, who then gets it round the corner now to Pascal Gross, who's got space to run into. Howell. Everything to his left here for the Brighton 17-year-old. Again, wanting to go forward, but there's just no clear options. So it goes to Dunk, then forward to Baliba, who gets away from 3 Crystal Palace players. Baliba tried to dink it in behind for Mitoma, who's made the run. And off his line quickly, reading the game well, Dean Henderson. If anyone is going to score, it does look like it will be Brighton. And a lot of the runs in behind are being made by Kaoru Mitoma, who's going from the left-hand side into a more central area. And we're going to get the first change of the game. It's going to go for Crystal Palace. And it's going to be another debut. The Spaniard Jeremy Pino is just not quite playing at his best since joining in the summer on a 5-year deal. He'll be replaced by the Ivorian Evan Guessant, who's on loan from Aston Villa, £28 million buy option. Scored the 1 goal at AFCON for the Ivory Coast against Gabon in the group stage. And during his time at Villa Park, he was able to score 2 goals, both of them in the Europa League. As we've got a throw in here for Aston Villa. There was interest from Crystal Palace in Evan Guessant before he joined Aston Villa in previous transfer windows, but they've finally got their man. So, despite being quite far away from the 18-yard box, they are going to go for a long throw in here, Crystal Palace, and just try and get it as far forward as possible through Chris Richards. The number 26 launches a throw-in, and it does reach the 18-yard area just. Header won by Howell for Brighton, straight back to Richards, who has to return it all the way back to Dean Henderson. He's only about 10 yards away from the halfway line. Needs to be careful here, the Englishman. He will send it forward, left-footed. It's controlled by Guessant in the middle of the pitch, and he works it to Wharton. To the left to Lerma. Hughes. Into the centre circle now with Lacroix, who returns into his centre-back position. Still on the ball here, the Frenchman. Goes forward towards Sarr. Loses out with his heavy touch, and it's now worked to Mitoma. Touch just goes behind him. Collected by Munoz. As Palace start again in their own half with their Colombian Jefferson Lerma. 50% win record against Brighton. 5 wins in 10 previous games against them. It's Dean Henderson. To the edge of his box now to Lacroix. Lifted ball down the right channel. Strand Larsen's going to chase this. Dunk will get there ahead of him and he'll send it away from the Norwegian. And he plays it to the right-hand side here to Howell, who's got Mitchell right on his back. Lays it off to Dunk in a right-back position, forward to Ruter. Then inside to Gross. Hurries a clearance and it's gone right up in the air. Then volleyed forward by Wharton. Sarr towards Strand Larsen. Picked up by Mitchell. Strand Larsen slides in. Works it to Hughes, who's been pulled back there by Ruter. That's going to be a free kick for Crystal Palace, just towards the left-hand side. So still 0-0 and well over half an hour left in this game for someone to become a hero in this derby. So they've sent the centre-backs forward for this Crystal Palace. It's Hughes towards the far post in the box. Lerma wins the header again towards Gessan, who heads it forward. Strand Larsen back to goal. Lays it off into the edge of the area to Lerma. His touch gets away from him. He has to bring down Matoma. And Crystal Palace have gone from looking like they could be getting a shot away to then conceding a free kick to completely kill the attack. Just got away from him there, Lerma, and he had to try and get a boot towards the ball, and he didn't. Hence the free kick given by Thomas Bramall. Dunk on the ball, midway side his own half here. He's got Boscagli to his left and he'll play it to the French centre-half. Forward, in between the lines here for Kostoulas. Gross to the right side to Kadioglu. Into the gap towards Ruter on the edge of the area. It's cleared by Lacroix, who just about got there first. Dunk having to go back to Bart Verbruggen. (26 appearances for his country. Bart Verbruggen made his debut in October 2023. Played every minute in the most recent Euros in 2024 when the Netherlands were beaten by England in the semi-final stage. As the ball goes through to Kostoulas, try to play it around the corner, out of play, throw-in for Crystal Palace. Not a lot of sympathy there for Jefferson Lerma, as the Greek international has felt like he's just been caught there. He might have an argument caught on the top of the foot. Halalamus Kostoulas, who's got 2 appearances for his country, made his debut, and both of those appearances came off the bench in the most recent international break in the November just gone. There's Munoz. Wharton now forward, headed by Dunk, only as far as Gessan, who gets there ahead of Boscagli. Gessan slips it through for Sarr, who's onside. He's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He's got to score! And Ismail Sarr gives Crystal Palace the lead. Off the bench, Evan Gessan sets up the Palace goal for Ismail Sarr, who's now scoring back-to-back Premier League games for the Eagles. He scored a brace against them here last season. He just absolutely loves coming here and scoring in the M23 derby. It was a loose header from Lewis Dunk, and Gessan was just about strong enough to keep the ball away from the Brighton defence. And he knew Ismail Sarr had made a run through the middle, and he found him. And all Sarr had to do was get the first touch right, which he did. It was in front of him, which allowed him to burst away. Dunk tried to get across. He couldn't block the shot, and as Sarr took the shot, it's gone right down the middle of the goal, but it smacked Verbruggen in the face, which sends it in towards the roof of the net. And off the balance of play, it's probably undeserved, but it's a derby. And the only thing that matters is the scoreline. At the moment at the Amex, it's Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 1. Definitely not one of his better finishes there from Sarr. Like I say, he was straight down the middle. It was Bart Verbruggen's face who ended up getting the last touch as it hit the back of the net. But it's 1-0 to Crystal Palace. On his 70th appearance for the club, Ismaila Sarr gets his 22nd goal for them. And for Ismaila Sarr, he hadn't scored since their win at home to Liverpool at the end of September. Now he scored in the last 2 Premier League games, both away from Selhurst Park. But the instant impact from Ghassan with the assist is exactly what Oliver Glasner would have wanted to have seen, as it has been 63 days since Crystal Palace last won in the Premier League. And that run could be coming to an end this afternoon as they've got the lead. It's been Brighton who have been the much better team, but not created too many chances to really test Dean Henderson in between the sticks for Crystal Palace. Gross crosses it into the box early. It goes over the head of Kostoulas, cleared by Munoz. Well, as far as Kadioglu, heads it to the edge of the area to Ruta. Keeps it away from Hughes. And cleared by Wharton. And he fouls Wharton as he cleared it. It's going to be a free kick for Crystal Palace. It's been a frustrating afternoon so far for Jorginho Ruta. He's only started 4 of the last 7 now in the Premier League. There's thinking for Hertzler to do as he is under pressure now. Certainly under pressure because he'll drop below Crystal Palace in the league table. Palace will go to 13th and Brighton will go to 14th. And Brighton are only 8 points away from the relegation zone, 8 clear of West Ham. So they just don't want to get too dragged in to that scrap towards the bottom end of the league table. Dean Henderson goes long from the free kick out towards the right-hand side. Chested down by Strand Larsen. He goes down over the challenge of Boscagli. Soft, says the referee. So play continues. Ruta in behind. And the ball's through for Kostoulas, who's away. He's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And it's saved from Dean Henderson's legs. Ghassan dispossessed by Baliba. Cleared in the end by Lacroix, who goes down. Another free kick given by the referee. And both teams in the second half have had big chances. Palace took theirs. Brighton did not. It was a ball deflected through towards Matoma, who then played it to Ruta. Quickly swept it in behind for Kostoulas. And he's gone for the right-footed finish into the far corner. And Henderson made himself as big as possible and saved it with that left leg. And he keeps Palace's lead alive for now. Still Brighton 0, Palace 1 as we just tick into the 65th minute of the game. As Brighton are going to start making their changes. It looks like it's going to be a triple change. Danny Welbeck, Diego Gomez and Yankuba Minte will be coming on. Big kick from Henderson towards the edge of the 18-yard box. It's a header won by Boscagli. As far as Munoz, who plays it forward. And the last touch comes off a Brighton man, and that'll be a corner. Couldn't be avoided by Verbruggen. Will Hughes with an in-swinger from that far side. So we've got just over a quarter of the game left to play. Right arm raised. Left-footed ball goes in and the header's won. I think by Lerma. And he just couldn't get it under the crossbar about 6 yards out. Verbruggen came for it. Didn't really get anywhere near it in the end. The Dutch international. It was almost Jefferson Lerma's goal. Would have been his first of the season. It would have been his first since just less than 2 years ago in February 2024 in a 3-1 defeat against Chelsea at home. Long ball from Brighton this time. Header won by Richards. Sliding in is Will Hughes, who keeps it away from Halalamus Kostoulas. And eventually cleared on by Dean Henderson. Up towards Strand Larsen. Comes off the back of the head of Boscagli. And Kadioglu picks up the second ball. As Brighton need to try and get it forward and attack as quickly as possible. Because they won't settle for a draw. They know they need 3. The form isn't allowing them to drop any more points. As Baliba works it into the Crystal Palace half with Gross on this right-hand side. He's got Howell ahead of him, uses him. Here is Harry Howell, one-on-one with Mitchell, onto his left foot. Being forced away from goal by Wharton, who doubles up on the youngster. And it's now just in front of the halfway line with Dunk. Back out wide to Kadioglu. To the edge of the area, to Gross, who tries to flick to Ruta, nowhere near him in the end. Goes through to Dean Henderson in the Crystal Palace goal. Who's got 11 clean sheets so far this season. Dean Henderson, in all competitions. Played 31 of the 37 games so far this season for Crystal Palace, where they've won 14 of those 37. That's Brighton are still waiting to make those changes. As it's Lerma, a long ball down the right channel for Crystal Palace. It's well overhit, easily dealt with by Brighton's defence, and it's been rolled to Dunk, who then plays it into a more central position now to Pascal Gross. De Cowper, at left back on the halfway line, returning it to the left centre half of Buscagli. De Cowper. It's going to be difficult to break through this Crystal Palace defence now, who have kept 8 clean sheets this season, 4 at home and 4 away. Verbruggen, long, down the left-hand side towards Matoma. Lerma needs to deal with a bouncing ball, and he does expertly well. Heading it to Dean Henderson. Looks like he's starting to tire slightly. Jefferson Lerma, some heavy, deep breaths there as he completed that piece of defending. With the left wing back Mitchell being closed down by Howell. Plays it forward in the end to Strand Larsen, who holds it up brilliantly, but then shows too much of it to Belieber. It's now Matoma. Costulas, well tackled by Wharton in the middle of the park. Loads of space for him to bring it forward. He's got 3 options ahead of him. Works out to the right to Munoz. There's a potential cross on. Just has to go short instead to Wharton. Then back out wide to Munoz. Wharton once more. Left-footed ball goes in. It's slightly overhit. Too much on it for Mitchell at the far post. It's a goal kick for Brighton with 20 to play. And they're going to try and make their substitutions now. Going to be a triple change. The first one, we'll see Carlos Belieber replaced by Diego Gomez. Not quite the result that Belieber would have wanted on his 100th appearance for the club. And he's replaced by the Paraguayan Diego Gomez, who was injured for the last game against Everton. Second change, we'll see Maxime de Cowper also come off for Danny Welbeck. So that's a very attacking change from Hertzler. And the final change, we'll see the youngster on his Premier League debut in terms of a start. His first ever start in the Premier League. He'll be replaced by Yankuba Minte. So Belieber, Howell and De Cowper off for Gomez, Welbeck and Minte. So it's a bit of more of a attacking Brighton team now, as Verbruggen has to kick it long out towards the right-hand side, towards Minte, who wins the header. Welbeck will chase it. Lacroix gets there first, sends it to Dean Henderson in his 18-yard box, who clears it. Not very convincing clearance, but straight to Gassand, who just loses out after his poor touch, and it's now Minte, who's surrounded by Palace shirts, and it's Gassand to take it away. It's now Hughes to Mitchell on the halfway line on this near side, right in front of the 2 technical areas. Spins and plays in behind, but no one's making a run for Palace. And it's now Brighton again to start from the back with their captain, Lewis Dunk, whose last goal was a 95th minute equaliser against Everton just under 2 years ago, back in February 2024. How they could do with a goal from their captain at the moment, who signed a new deal till the end of next year, in December 2025. Gomez out to the left to Mitoma. Back into Gross. He's going to go for a switch to this near side, and he finds Ruta, who brings it down. Tackled by Mitchell, keeps it away from Gassand for now, but then gets doubled up on and then loses out, but then tries to win it back. In the end, it's Gassand to break away with a nutmeg on Kadioglu, but then shows too much to Gross and then wins the ball there for Brighton, and the advantage is played. And it'll be Brighton again from the back, just being caught out on their right-hand side. It was almost a breakaway there for Crystal Palace through Evan Gassand. Matoma trying to go back towards Boscagli, and it's ran through for Strand Larsen. Angles tight. He's on his own in the area. He's going to go for the shot, and it's blocked by the knees of Verbruggen. Didn't really have any other options there, Jørgen Strand Larsen. Their club record signing brought in on deadline day. Matoma tried to go back there to Boscagli after pressure from Munoz. Boscagli just didn't simply have the pace to get there ahead of the Norwegian, who then entered the box on his own on that right-hand side. The angle was tight, went for the shot. I think it was the right knee of Verbruggen that blocked the shot. And it's Palace to get up the pitch and try and bag a second goal if they can. It's going to be a throw-in. But we know they've got a long throw through Chris Richards, who delivers the ball in right on that post. It's a header won by Welbeck, so it's going to be a corner. Well, won there by Crystal Palace, who are looking for their first win in the Premier League in 63 days. Not won any of their last 9 in the league. Oliver Glasner's side, who have obviously gone through a lot of tension throughout the last couple of months, not just on the pitch with the results, but also off the pitch with the saga with the transfers and the fact that Oliver Glasner's announced he is going to leave at the end of his contract at the end of this season. Hughes with another in-swinger towards the near post this time. Strand Larsen with the header, got good contact, couldn't get it on target. Goal kick for Brighton. If they've got to start making some big chances sooner rather or later, or this will be another win for Crystal Palace in this fixture. Only won 3 of the last 10 though in this match-up. Crystal Palace. Been a lot of draws in this head-to-head. There's Lacroix. Big tackle on Minte. They both come out hurt. He did get the ball though, the Frenchman. Palace hurried it away. Lacroix's back to his feet, so is Minte. So there's no need to stop play or anything like that. We're going to continue. Went through the legs of Welbeck, and then there was a loose ball there between Lacroix and Minte, and they both went for it. Lacroix got the ball. Maybe a bit of contact between the two, but they're both back on their feet. And we're back underway. Kadioglu to Minte, just about kept alive there. Just a dunk. And he goes across here. In between the two centre-backs is Pascal Gross. Almost taking up the quarterback position for Brighton. On Super Bowl weekend, as it's Matoma on the left. Can't quite keep it in. And that's going to be a throw-in midway inside their own half here for Crystal Palace, who have been far from their best this afternoon, but have nicked one on the break after a turnover from a Brighton error. And it looks like they're going to bring on a substitute of their own here, Deitch Kamada, to come on, who's played well over 10,000 minutes under Oliver Glasner. 160th time he'll be playing under him after his time at Frankfurt and also at Crystal Palace as well. That's from the throw-in. Brighton have won it back, being aggressive, knowing they need the next goal. Gross dinks up towards Welbeck, headed away by Lerma on the edge of the area. Drops back to Gross on the halfway line. It's now Will Lewis Dunk. Running out of time here, the Seagulls. Kadioglu. Gomez. Rushed and tackled by Hughes. He's then pulled to the ground. And it's a well-won free kick from Will Hughes. He bounced then. And he jumped on his man. Just made the press very aggressive. And that will be his last action. Winning the free kick. And he's battled extremely well this afternoon, Will Hughes, who's a little bit of a fan's favourite. And the 30-year-old will be replaced by Deitch Kamada, who made 14 starts in a row from the end of August to the middle of December, but then has missed the last 11 with a hamstring injury. This is his first appearance since the middle of December when they took on Manchester City at home. So it's just been an awful 6 weeks for Kamada, who's had to watch from the sidelines and watch his team struggle. But he's returned, and Brighton have got themselves a free kick now. Strand Larsen with the trip. And it is Boscagli who's down at the moment. The centre-half, who is having to get some medical treatment here. They have got a centre-back on the bench as a replacement if needed. The returnee, Igor, the Brazilian centre-back who spent the first half of the season on loan at West Ham, where he made just 4 appearances, 1 start, which was away at Bournemouth in a 2-2 draw. And from 12 yards out, that's where Ismail Assar buried the ball into the back of the net, left-footed, just went past the penalty spot, hit the shot off the face of Verbruggen and into the back of the net. Brilliantly set up by Gesson, who won it in a high area, which is the best place to win the ball, because you can turn it over as quickly as that and get your team ahead, even in a game where you've probably not been at the races, which Crystal Palace haven't, but they've nicked a lead. Dunk, massive kick down the left-hand side towards Welbeck. Henderson's out of his area. He's going to try and see it behind for a goal kick, which he's able to do so. And that'll be a goal kick as Lerma and Welbeck. A little bit of afters. Nothing major there. Oh, now this is coming together, having a quick chat. Costulas just pushes away Lerma. Referee on the scene just to make sure nothing spills over. Know how the there's Lacroix making sure all the Crystal Palace fans are in full voice. 2-hour round trip for them there and back on the roads through the M23. Long ball forward for Palace. It's cleared away in the end there by Boscagli, who's back on and playing. Going to be dealt with by Lerma, who's met by a strong challenge by Danny Welbeck. And that's going to be a throw-in the defensive third for Crystal Palace, who will leapfrog Brighton in the table up to 13th. So Lerma will take the throw. Obviously, Crystal Palace taking as much time as they can, as Munoz has been the one who's booked for time wasting. Because I think he was originally the one with the ball, and then he's passed it on to Lerma. So yellow card there for Daniel Munoz. It's a long throw by Lerma. It goes away from Strand Larsen. It's now Dunk going across to Kadioglu. They've got 10 minutes plus added on time here, Brighton, to try and get an equaliser, and they don't look like they're going to score, if I'm going to be completely honest. They've only scored 6 in their last 5 in the Premier League, Brighton. Matoma. Down the left-hand side, past 2 Palace players, and then kicks it off the third and wins a corner. Probably been their most dangerous player in this game, Kaoru Matoma, from that left flank. But in Brighton's last 3 Premier League games, there has been a goal in added on time in each. They've not all gone their way. The last 2 haven't, when Beto equalised in the 97th minute and then Wilson nicked a winner when they played away at Fulham a couple of weeks ago. But there has been late goals in recent Brighton matches. It's going to be an in-swinger from Gross into the 6-yard box. It's a header won by Larsen, chested by Gesson and cleared by Munoz. Didn't quite get a full contact on it. And it's going to be a throw-in on the halfway line for Brighton, taken quickly by Gross to Kadioglu. Not long left now for Palace to defend this lead. Minte, tackled by, I think that's Kamada, and then tackled fairly by Costulas, and that's going to be a throw-in for Crystal Palace. Deitch, Kamada coming on and setting the tone, just like Will Hughes was doing in the midfield. It's a last roll of the dice for Fabian Hürzeler. The returnee from his loan from Marseille comes on, Jorginho Rutarov, for Matt O'Reilly, who did score in the first game of the Premier League season before leaving for Marseille against Fulham. So Rutarov for O'Reilly, and Hinshelwood has also come on as well, and I think he's replaced Costulas. So another final change is there for Brighton, as they've got 8 minutes left plus added on time to try and save themselves in this derby. Dean Henderson in the 18-yard area. Clears it long down the middle of the pitch towards Strand Larsen. It's a free header for Boskagli. Helped on by Matoma, flicked inside to Welbeck, who can play the pass here to Kadioglu. Space is opening up on the right-hand side for Brighton. Minte, ball is short. Mitchell gets in there, pokes it away, throwing for Brighton, as we won't get that equalling record for James Milner as they've run out of substitutes. He'll have to wait until at least Wednesday to break the record. Well, not break the record, equal the record of most Premier League appearances. Obviously, Gareth Barry is the leader of that with 653. Milner currently on 652. 7 minutes to go. Still 1-0 to Crystal Palace. Pascal Gross caught on the ankle by Evan Gassand. And that's going to be a free kick for Brighton. About midway inside the Palace half. It's just towards the right-hand side, so there's a slight angle to get a cross in. Dunks in there. Welbeck's going to be trying to attack this one as well. Matt O'Reilly stood over it as well. He runs over it and lets Gross cross the ball in. Free header from Richards. Well away as well towards the halfway line where Matoma will get there first. He'll play out to the right here to Gross. Left-footed ball in towards the box. A header won by Sarr. Controlled by Wharton. Plays it into the run of Mitchell, who takes a heavy touch forward, tries to get around Kadioglu, but Minte's there to take the ball away. Goes to Verbruggen, then back out to Minte. Just about beat the press there of Mitchell. And Brighton need to try and get it forward as quickly as possible. Pull back there on O'Reilly. That's going to be a free kick and probably a yellow card for Strand Larsen. So he goes into the book on his debut, Jurgen Strand Larsen. Slowing the attack down there, pulling the arm of O'Reilly. 5.5 minutes of the 90 to go. Hinshelwood to Gross in the centre circle. Space out wide for Minte. Tries to go for the first time pass in behind for Kadioglu. Cut out by Mitchell. Kamada. Into Strand Larsen. Works it to Sarr, brought down from behind by Gomez. And that will be a yellow card as well and a free kick. Tried to get away from the Paraguayan, but wasn't allowed to with the pullback on his jersey. Brought in a year ago now, Diego Gomez from Inter Miami. It looks like Crystal Palace are going to bring on one of their new January signings. Brought in at the start of the window, Brennan Johnson. Did start the last 5 Premier League games since joining, but was dropped to the bench for this afternoon's derby. So it's going to be Wharton to put this in towards the Brighton 18-yard box. He clips it in towards Lacroix over his head, and it's a header won by Dunk. The corner is going to be avoided by Kadioglu, who clears it to Matoma, who gets there ahead of Mitchell, and then sends it in behind for Hinshelwood, and there is a break on. It's O'Reilly, in fact, who's going to go for the switch over the head of Wharton. It will be kept in by Gross towards the byline. Plays it back into Minte. Back through for Gross, who's surely offside. The flag stays down for now. Gross goes through, and the flag does then go up. Always going to be offside there, Pascal Gross. It's such a silly decision from Yankuba Minte. So far offside. Borderline stupidity, that decision. It just got to make sure you go for a different pass, as the current match winner will be replaced. Ismail Assar, who returns to Crystal Palace after winning the Africa Cup of Nations. He's now scored in the last 2. He's certainly someone they have missed on this horrid run of form. Last weekend he scored from the penalty spot. This time it was from a similar distance, but from open play. after the assist from the debutant, which is Evan Gessan. And for Ismail Assar, he'll be coming off. And coming on will be what was their record signing at the start of the window, Brennan Johnson. That was quickly taken away from him, that label, as Jurgen Strand-Larsen was brought in for £48 million. Still yet to score for Crystal Palace since coming in from Spurs, Brennan Johnson. The kick from Henderson, header won by Dunk, second header won by Kadioglu, third by Kamada. It's now Wharton to hook it over his head up towards Strand-Larsen, headed backwards by Dunk brilliantly to Verbruggen, as we've got just over 2 minutes of the 90 to go. Gross to Dunk, still in the Brighton half. They've got to get moving quickly. It'll be very interesting to see the reaction of the Brighton fans after this, because they're already becoming a slightly, there was a bit of discontent within the camp with Fabian Hürzeler, and this result won't help, and I think the performance won't help. This has been sloppy, it's been slow, it's been boring. There's a long ball to Mitoma's taken off him by Lacroix, and the touch into the air has been caught by Henderson, almost. It was Boscagli's ball up towards Mitoma, who beat Richards to it, but then Richards was able to quickly turn and get a foot to the ball, and then it was caught by Henderson, and it's now with Richards on the edge of the 18-yard box, forward to Kamada, trying to get it in between the lines towards Brennan Johnson, who gets the touch, but Boscagli's there to clean up and play it forward, then touched inside, but then Gross can't quite keep the ball. The clearances fell eventually to O'Reilly, who's then been tackled by Kamada again, but only as far as Verbruggen. A minute to go of the 90. O'Reilly on this right-hand side. He's got Mitoma in support. Plays it to Mitoma. Tackled by Mitchell. Ball deflects to Gesson, who goes forward to Strand-Larsen. Kicked in the back of the leg by Boscagli. And that'll be a free kick. He definitely doesn't agree there. Brighton's number 21. But that's a great time to win a free kick there. Jurgen Strand-Larsen, who turned 26 on Friday. It just went through the back of the Norwegian. Probably coming through at the worst time as a Norwegian striker. And you've got the likes of Erling Haaland also in the ranks as well. Oliver Glasner telling his team to stay concentrated. Six minutes of added on time for Brighton to save themselves. Henderson goes long from that free kick. Can't be kept in by Munoz. And it will be a goal kick for Brighton. They've got to try and create something. They've not created a lot in this game. Very poor performance. Dunk with a huge switch towards the left-hand side. Headed on towards the runner Welbeck, who will not get there ahead of Lacroix. That is brilliant defending. He's going to keep it in right on that corner flag. He clears it. Chested down by Hinshelwood. Plays it to the right here to Kadioglu. Not much going on for him. He tries the cross and it goes straight into the gloves of Dean Henderson, who drops on the ball, but he knows he can't drop onto it for too long because of that new ruling in the Premier League and in the EFL, where the goalkeeper can only have it for 8 seconds, as he's again cleared it long. It's a part of Palace's play, just going direct as possible. Dealt with by Boscagli to Verbruggen. The ball's bouncing. He's been closed down by Johnson. Just about works it to Kadioglu at right back, who then goes long himself up towards Welbeck. He's won the header and headed back forward by Mitoma and headed down by Hinshelwood to O'Reilly. Mitoma, Hinshelwood to Mitoma once more. Out wide left to Minte, who can run into Munoz. Free kick given on the left-hand side for Brighton. Quite far away from goal, but it's a chance to deliver a cross into the box. Didn't quite time the challenge right there, the Colombian. Yeah, just slightly late as Minte touched it away from him and in behind. 4 minutes to go with added on time. Still Brighton 0, Palace 1 in the M23 derby. It's going to be a left-footed delivery from the left-hand side by O'Reilly. It goes in and it's deep towards Hinshelwood. Header won by Lerma. And he'll drop on his own header and he'll clear it away with his left foot. But it's going to have to be dealt with here by O'Reilly, who gets there ahead of Johnson. It's now with Verbruggen. Plenty of time on the ball for the Dutchman. He goes long towards Dunk. Header won by Richards. It's now Kamada. Back to Richards, who kicks it off Dunk. And it's a goal kick for Crystal Palace, who will try and kill as much time as possible. Pascal Gross getting the ball and placing it onto the spot for Henderson, who I'm sure will take it to the other side. This player of the match has been given to the current match winner, Ismail Assar, in a game that's lacked a lot of quality. He's the one who was able to bring the littlest bit needed to get Palace the lead in this game. Halfway through, added on time. Big kick from Henderson over the head of Johnson. Header won by Hinshelwood. Bit of head tennis going on. Eventually drops to Mitoma, who heads it up into the air. Chested down by Gessan. Away from O'Reilly. Forward to Johnson. Strand Larsen. Out to Munoz on the right-hand side. Into the box. Pulls it back. Strand Larsen. Big save for Bruggen. Still alive in the area. Kicked away by Hinshelwood. And it's now with Kadioglu at right back. Massive chance for Palace to kill the game. Mitoma. Forward towards Dunk, who's still up front. Can't quite beat Lacroix to it, who sends it to Dean Henderson, who kicks out to the right-hand side. Munoz. Back to Lerma, who's been chased down by Minte. Henderson kicks it away first time. Can't be kept alive by Strand Larsen, who almost had his goal on his Crystal Palace debut. It's a long ball forward, avoids everyone in a blue and white shirt, and it'll be a goal kick to Crystal Palace. Well worked by the away side to get Munoz on the ball, and it was a good pullback as well. Don't think Strand Larsen could have done a lot more. Aimed it to the far corner. Verbruggen got down well low with the right hand to keep the ball out. There is going to be a monumental amount of pressure on Fabian Hürzeler now, because this performance hasn't been good enough and form hasn't been good enough now for a very long time. This is just going to be one win from their last 12 in the league since the beginning of December. Gomez heads on, headed away by Lerma. A minute to go. Boscagli. Minte. Across to Gross. Left-footed ball in towards the box, towards Dunk, who pushes over Lerma, and that will probably be that. What a shocking performance from Brighton in one of their biggest games of the season so far. Nowhere near good enough. And that goes for Crystal Palace as well. They've also been horrendous on the main scheme of things. It's been a derby that's lacked a lot of quality. There was literally one moment of quality which led to the Ismail Assar goal. Wonder how much time will be left to play in this one, as we're 7 seconds away from the full allocated added on time being played. Wharton to Johnson, and Johnson was offside as the ball dropped to him on the edge of the area. So we've played the 6. It's now up to the referee of how long left will be played, as Fabian Hürzeler, you can see the worry on his face. He knows his job will be in jeopardy as the ball goes long from the free kick. The full-time whistle goes at the Amex, and Crystal Palace once again get the better of Brighton in the M23 derby. It's now 4 games in a row now without defeat in this fixture. Three wins in the last 4. And a big reason for a handful of those wins has been Ismail Assar, and he was the match winner again today. Just like he was here last season scoring a brace. This time it was just the one, but that's the only goal that was needed to get Crystal Palace the 3 points. It's their first win in all competitions since the 11th of December. It's their first win in the Premier League in 63 days since their away win at Fulham. Away from home is where they're performing best. Their last 4 wins in the Premier League have now been on their travels. They just need to try and turn their form around at home. But it's a start for Crystal Palace to try and get their Premier League season back on track. This 3 points puts them above Brighton into 13th position. And in the 61st minute is where the goal was scored. Evan Gessan off the bench, almost immediately making an impact. He picked up a loose header from Dunk, shrugged off De Cowper, and then slipped it through for Sarr, who was alone through the middle of the pitch. Took his time, entered the box, left-footed strike, slapped right off the face of Verbruggen, and it hit the back of the net. Brighton had a lot of the ball, but did absolutely nothing with it to try and even attempt to scare Dean Henderson in the Crystal Palace goal, and their captain, Dean Henderson, will be absolutely delighted with this win. Brighton will be frustrated, Crystal Palace will be delighted. And that is going to be the end of the live stream. Hope you did enjoy. Make sure you like and subscribe if you have not already. As here at the Amex in the M23 derby, it was a game that lacked real quality, but in one moment where quality was needed, Ismail Assar delivered that to score once again in this fixture. It's a first win in the Premier League in 63 days for Crystal Palace. It's just 1 win in 12 now for Brighton in the Premier League. Both teams out of form, but Crystal Palace are going to look to try and get their season back on track as they walk away with 3 points. And here at the Amex, it finishes Brighton 0, Crystal Palace 1.